Experience. We're so glad you're at this event today. UniVirtual Experience is a partnership, a collaboration between educators in VR and the Virtual World Society. And they are bringing together experts and innovators in immersive education, disrupting education around the world. Now, before we begin this really interesting event, I've been waiting for this. I'm excited for you to share with us, Pedro and Gingery. We'd like to take a moment to thank and acknowledge our sponsors. HP Virtual Reality and HP Higher Education are our Infinity sponsors. They just released a new edition of the HP Reverb G2 that is perfectly designed for higher ed with pulse and eye monitoring. You guys, it's early ed testing and other innovations excellent for precision controls, research, and development. Check out the articles on Educators in VR website. You will find that at educatorsinvr.com. Or you can head to HP's website, hp.com, and check out the HP Virtual Reality or HP Higher Education to learn more. Our Galaxy sponsors that I just want to thank are Engage VR, and we've been enjoying many events already in Engage, and Avantis, who is sponsoring Mark's amazing nightclub. Which I believe in the next day or two there's going to be a party in the nightclub. So you guys watch check the calendar for that. So now, without further ado, I am going to hand the mic over to this dynamic duo and welcome you to the UniVirtual Experience stage.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you,
welcome.
Donna. Thank you, and thank you to all the sponsors. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Today, we're going to be discussing virtual reality and language education and some of the pitfalls and difficulties of implementing traditional language education into VR and how we can do that successfully. I'm Pedro, and this is Gingery. We are English educators with an interest in virtual reality, how it can be used to enhance learning capabilities. So, just to gauge the audience a little bit, how many of you guys are English teachers? Can you throw up an emoji? All right, well, how many of you guys have tried to learn a language? Go ahead and throw up an emoji for that. Oh, nice, nice.
Lots of people. That's good.
So, English education, hold on one second. Why don't you talk a little bit about your experiences with teaching in VR and some difficulties that you may have had?
Yeah, okay. So I'm a teacher of English as a foreign language. I'll talk a little bit about myself. I have a background in foreign philology, which is the history and development of languages. And I also used to learn 8 foreign languages in total. And my professional experience includes working with foreign adult students in Sydney and with kids in the Moscow region. And I'm also the co-team leader of the language project of the educators in VR. Started using virtual reality with small children at school. I use this cardboard-like headset, which is like a Google Cardboard. And I decided to use it as a practice tool at the end of the class. So before that, I presented some vocabulary, then we practice it a little bit in the class with games or like tabletop games. And then I showed each of my students a short, like a 1 minute video of scenery or beautiful scenery or something else. And they had to talk about what they see in front of them. They could name just words or whole sentences, so no pressure. It was just like a fun relaxed task for them. Then I also used Mozilla Hubs with my other students, but they were using it not with via headsets. The only person with a headset was me, but still there was a plus of it because we could use it not just 10 or 5 or 15 minutes. So it's the limit time for the age range of the students of 10 years old. But we could use it for 40 minutes, for 50 minutes, using a 2D mode. And they were building various things there, they were creating, and they were using language as a tool to express themselves, to tell what they see, to use it like a tool to communicate and express their feelings. So, and it didn't look like a language task, or like an exercise, but it was like just a fun time, fun spending time. And they really, really liked it. And they were looking forward to other lessons like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's one of the benefits of using VR for language education is you can really immerse yourself like that and put yourself in these and your students in these really creative environments where they're able to manipulate the environment and get a better sense of clarity for the concepts that you're talking about. And because we have so many creative people, we have world designers and people that make applications and a lot of talented educators, uh, they can visualize these concepts and they can construct these concepts in a better way. So
We can go into like a dialogue mode. I would like to ask you, all of you, you can raise your hands like that or with your emoji, I don't know. Let's talk about your language learning strategies. What language learning strategies do really work for you? And think about, can you, let's say, transfer them into virtual reality? What do you think? Any ideas? Maybe you use Anki cards, maybe Quizlet, maybe tabletop games, movies. What else? What do you use? So what really works for you?
yeah, for those people that are learning languages, how do you make sure that you maintain like a proper practice and reinforce those skills that you're learning? We'll take questions from the audience.
Oh, you can just start to speak, right?
I think they're muted. Yeah.
All of them, right? Yeah, yeah. I just unmuted all, I guess. So try to speak. Yeah, Susie, can you speak now, Susie?
I think
Yes,
so.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you can hear me.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, we can hear
I
you. Thank you.
I have well, I'm also a learner. Oh, sorry. What's sorry? I see here you've been mirrored. What does it mean?
I think you have the microphone, right?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm a beginner in this
No,
space.
don't worry.
Um, okay, so yeah, I am both a learner of foreign languages and I'm a teacher. I teach Italian as a foreign language, not English. And I've been working quite a lot in low immersion virtual environments like Second Life with my students. And so mine is more a question to you than talking about the strategies. I was wondering if what are what are the affordances that this high immersion virtual environment would have that are that make language learning easier or better or maybe different even from a low immersion desktop based virtual environment.
What would you define as high immersion and low immersion? Like, what's the difference there?
I yeah, yeah, good question. Well, low immersion I would define something that is desktop based, where therefore your immersion as in the environment is high, but not as high as in this place. At the moment, I'm in here with my headset, so
Mhm.
I'm hi- highly immersed,
Right.
if it makes
I
sense.
think right. I think immersion itself is one of the one of the reasons to go and use virtual reality for language education. And once you enter virtual reality, you have that sense that you're there and that you can contribute. And it's like actually going in front of somebody and speaking the
Mm,
language. It's the next best thing to, having that
mm,
conversation with somebody from that country, except that you don't really associate all of the typical anxieties that you have for testing out a language that
mm,
you do in person because you're in your avatar, you're in a different user created space, and it's it's fun. It feels different. So
mhm.
Yeah, that's right. I
And
agree with Pedro. I wanted to
yeah,
add that even
thank you.
using
Yeah.
a 2D mode, you still can gather your students from all around the world in one place, and you can build like any environment and lots of different activities and be immersed there. You can role play, you can be a waiter, a cashier, whatever, and you can do all of it. And just putting on a headset, you get more senses activated, like
Mhm.
spatial memory, and it makes everything more vivid and more memorable. So that's it.
Thanks.
Mhm.
And so do you say that is it possible to customize the environment in this type of
Y-
environment here? Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
definitely.
sure.
thank you.
Yeah. Space. Yeah, it gives you this opportunity to create your own worlds.
Thank you.
Yeah,
No
thank
problem.
you for your question.
So as you guys have come up with questions, if you wouldn't mind still clicking the raise hand button, and then I'll amplify your voice so that everybody in the space is able to hear your question. Okay? Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Rami.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you
Good morning.
for the event. Um,
Thank you.
I see a kind of difficulty in virtual reality to teach English when it goes to phonetics. I mean, in order to teach the student how to pronounce, how to articulate the letters for each language is kind of difficult here. I mean, in virtual reality, because words like thank you, for example, the letter TH in English doesn't exist in Spanish, or the pronunciation of the R in French, like Remy, it doesn't exist in English or Spanish. So it's very difficult in virtual reality to teach them how to move the tongue, how to move the lips, the or anything, any part of the different articulation of every single word in pronunciation. And I see that's kind of better if you have the video. Of course, at this moment, I was yesterday in their event of UniVirtual that uses the camera that is framed. I think they uses the camera, and that is a good example because you have the avatars like here. You can put in the room things that you can to teach like objects, animals, uh, other different things. You cannot do that in real life. You cannot bring an elephant. You cannot bring a whale. You cannot bring a dinosaur. You cannot bring to the class every single thing which is outside. You can do that in virtual reality. But with this platform, it's better for the pronunciation, for example. So it's good to to get to the point that we can combine everything we have now in virtual reality, and I think it's a very very good um, approach to get to the students to learn new languages. That's what I think.
Yes, great point, Remy. I agree with you. Until we don't have this facial technology here in Altspace, it's hard to look at your students and see how they pronounce the phonetic, let's say. But maybe sometime later we will have it and it will appear in virtual reality. At the moment, you might try to add like a video screen and play some videos of pronunciation and just try to do it with your students. Plus, maybe
Right.
some yeah,
I
Zoom
think
sessions with more
yeah,
video
you're right,
facial
and I
expression.
think HP, the new device, is going to be very
Yeah, yeah.
helpful because I think it has a
This
camera
camera.
pointing to the mouth. So
That's right.
maybe that's the next step, and
Mm-hmm.
for sure, the next after that is going to be much better because in the future we're going to have uh, mm, accessories connected maybe to the elbows, maybe to the shoulders, to the
The tongue.
wrist, to the
Right.
mm,
Yeah.
knees. So the
Mhm.
avatar is gonna move everything, the knees, the feet, everything. But that is the future. But doing that, what we are doing now is a very, very good step before we have those devices. So I mean, I think we are in the future now. The future is coming with more, but we are in the future. We are expecting for a long time.
That's right. Yes.
Definitely,
Thank you so
yeah,
much.
and thank you for bringing that up because that's one of the obstacles that we have when we're trying
Mm-hmm.
to convert a traditional language course or traditional language education to VR. The way I get around that is just having, I think the simplest and most direct way is to have a sort of hybrid until we have that technology available of having a video conference to go over things like phonetics and intonations and things like that, and then using virtual reality to enhance the vocabulary concepts and word order and for the immersive purposes and to train conversation skills and things like that.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. What else? We can move to something else. For example, I have another question for you. So I want you to think teaching grammar theory using virtual reality. Is that a good idea? Pros, cons, alternatives? What do you think? Should we spend time learning or telling the theory or trying to explain it, or should we pre-teach it somewhere else before coming to virtual reality and use this environment only for practicing?
Right. And how can we rely on upcoming technology to better teach these grammar concepts like word order and
Mm-hmm.
different tenses, like past tense, future tense? What are some things that come to mind when you stand in an environment like this and see how we can use that to enhance those concepts? Just go ahead
Yeah,
and raise
go
hand.
ahead, Rami. Go ahead, Rami. Your voice is still amplified, Rami. Oh, it's not? Okay, hang on a sec. I'll just toggle it on and off. Okay, okay, there you
Thank
go.
you very much. Thank you very much. Um, I have a different kind of technique to teach my students. I prefer to go the natural way we do with kids. Kids don't understand grammar. Kids
Mhm.
don't understand what is an article, a verb, what was supposed to be first or after, whatever. They don't understand. They learn step by step, listen, and trying to say it. And I like that with my students. Listen, and I I usually teach is person to person, a couple people or three people, whatever, but like that because I disagree a little bit about the procedure people takes on teaching. I like teach like uh, to the kids, and I ask them to memorize. Don't write anything. Just put the words in your mind, everything. So I go like pointing to the objects first, like ceiling, floor, wall, window, and then I point again, and you give me the word. I
Mhm.
point to the ceiling, they have to say ceiling. I point to the floor, they have to say floor. Point this and that, they do that. Okay, so I start doing this is that, whatever. And now you tell me, I mean, the student tell me, then good afternoon, good evening, whatever. Every single words we use, the bus, the watch, the pen, whatever. Everything first. After that, give me the pen, go to this, touch the wall, touch the floor, step forward, up, down, sit. What I teach them that way first. And when they know all of those words, and I can tell them, it takes about 6 months for me teach them because it's only 1 hour every day sometimes.
Mhm.
So it takes like 6 months for me for them to understand what I mean the English, to listen and understand the words. After that, I start with the grammar. Okay, in English, you don't say the verb first and the subject second. You do it the opposite of whatever the grammar is. You have to use the article like uh, the, etc. And then
Right.
the adjectives: big, bigger, biggest, small, smaller, smallest, good, whatever, all the I forgot the name of that. But those kind of things which are the grammar, I don't teach that at the beginning. I teach that after when they understand the words. Now they know, oh, that's the article, that's the verb. Many people, like farmers, for example, especially in third class or whatever kind of countries where people don't go to school, they speak very well the language, but they don't know what is a verb. They are 40 years old and they don't know what a verb is. They don't know what an article is. They don't know anything, and they speak. You go to the people, you ask questions, the people answer to you, and you just, is that a verb? Is that an article? Is that an adjective? They have no idea, but they speak. So I think teaching English is not about the grammar. It's about what you can say, how you communicate with people. And I think that is very good on this in this case. So no worries about grammar in virtual reality. I think is good for me at the beginning.
That's thank you for bringing that up,
So
Rami.
true.
That's
Yeah, thank you so much.
I definitely I agree with you to some extent that yes, grammar should be left um, for later, but I feel like with the majority of language learning adults that maybe they've picked up on a lot of English, at least in my experience here and there, the grammar is kind of like the cohesive tissue. It allows for them, if you have a good understanding of the grammar, it allows for you to evolve and really make English your own. It helps you be a little bit more flexible once you understand the grammar concepts. But I want to bounce it back to you again one more time, Remy. Do you think when you enter an environment like this, do you think that teaching grammar is is feasible? Do you think that anything in the tool set that we have here in AltSpace makes it so that we can easily teach grammar? Do you think that uh, that should be kept outside of VR if we are going to teach those grammar concepts like articles and verbs and tenses?
I think it is good. Yes. After the student, or yes, after the students know something about English, it is good. It is good. It's perfect because it is going a higher level. But starting, no. If a person comes to virtual reality to start learning a different language, I don't think it's a very good idea to start with grammar. I think it's a very good idea when the person already knows something about the new language. It's like when when students go to exchange in a different country, they go to China for some months to speak with the people. It's not to get the grammar, it's just to speak.
Mhm.
And they come back and they know how to speak. Sometimes people understand, people think that getting another language is to get expert on that language. And that's not the case. That's what I think. I speak two different languages. I speak Spanish, I speak English. And
Okay.
uh, I think understanding the new language is not how to write it or how to write it well. If a person comes to me and speak in Spanish and is not a very good grammar, I still understand what the person is saying. And I think sometimes I make mistakes speaking in English. And people who speak in English very well, I mean native English, I I don't have to explain if I make a mistake. They understand everything. So it's more important, I think, communicate, and that is the main goal. After that, even in Spanish, for example, which is my first language, even in Spanish, I sometimes make mistakes, but it's normal. I use words that I use it wrong, and I've
Yeah.
been talking in Spanish for more than 50 years. And
Yeah, same here.
and for I make those mistakes. It's normal. I use words that maybe I use it wrong, but I can communicate. And I think getting a new language, it's better to understand how communicate your idea, know how to
Mhm.
say it. No, I mean, if you say it perfect, good. But if you don't say it perfect, but the other person get what you're trying to say, that's the best thing. So grammar is good, perfect, yes, but it's not the most important part to get in language. In in real life, in virtual reality, or writing, or it's not the most important part to understand or to get a new language. That's what I think.
That's a really interesting perspective, Rami. Thank you for your input. Does anybody else have?
Oh, we've
Mm-hmm.
got a list of people here. So, Susie,
Okay.
Awesome.
I'm going to give you go ahead. Whoops, let's try this again. Go ahead. You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Thank you. I think Fred was probably before me,
Just, I've got a
but
cue.
yeah,
Yeah, go
okay,
ahead.
you got a cue. Fair enough.
Yeah, I do. Thank
No, I
you.
mean, basically, I agree with Rami in a way. I think, however, that for language learning, noticing the structures of language, they have to start from using the language, and then you need to give learners some time to notice what they've been using and what they've been doing, and maybe discuss it with you. And I see virtual reality as part of extended reality. So what we do in our physical reality can be done over here as well. When I used to teach in Second Life, I would base most of the class on communication, and then I would have games or ask students to build. things, because this is something which is, I think, is extremely important, that you're able to do in an immersive environment, to use the environment, customize it, and build it together, communicating while doing things together. And maybe I created games that would maybe concentrate more on some of the structures that we were using, like, go and catch if we're talking about articles, go and catch the masculine plural, and you had the masculine plural kind of written around the area, and they had to run, the avatar had to run to go and get it. So it's a game. It includes all your body, and it kind of affects your memory of the language as well. So I think we can do a lot more things as long as the environment is flexible for us to customize it.
Great point. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I'm interested to hear more about how you used Second Life for English education. Or was it English that you were teaching in Second Life?
No, I teach Italian as a second language, but
Italian,
it doesn't
Italian.
make, yeah, it doesn't make a difference anyway, whichever
No,
language.
definitely.
I There's a very interesting teacher I met that was a few years back, who used to teach English in Second Life, and he's Polish, I believe. And he had, talking about pronunciation, he had created cubes, and each cube had a sound and the phonetics of the sound on it. And then he
Oh,
was
wow.
creating games for the students who would move the cubes around, because and create sounds with them, and it was amazing. He had a short kind of presentation of his concept, which was extremely simple, but it's the sort of thing that you wouldn't be able to do sometimes in a class. It was
That's right.
fun. Mm.
Love it.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. That's one of the ways that we can use these digital spaces to visualize these concepts differently and store them differently in the
Yeah.
brain and to retain it easier. And like you said, I like
Mm.
how you mentioned that you make that kind of like mind muscle connection to enhance that retention of the concepts. I definitely agree with that, and I've seen that in my students as well when I bring them into VR to teach some English concepts.
You see, I
And
think if we have a place like this, we might as well just make the most of it. It's an extension of our reality, so let's go crazy and use it
Yes.
as much as we can.
Yeah. And
definitely,
create
definitely
with
agree with you, Susie.
activities and games, like infinite possibilities almost.
Almost, yeah.
Well, that's great. How about Fred? Fred, what would you like to talk about? Do you have a question?
Yeah, I've been a teacher for over 40 years, and I've taught English and a lot of other subjects areas. And I found along the way that the very most important thing is to encourage students to just write instead of jumping in with the red
Uh-huh.
pen. The worst weapon of a teacher is a red pen. That could really destroy a student. And
Mhm.
to encourage them to write. And I find this venue here in virtual reality rather interesting. Hopefully, it will encourage people to write. I had students, after they did their writing, to actually go on cable, local TV, and they had a show called The Magic of Books. And they used to write their own books and create their own books. And I could see the application being used here, where students can actually get out there and experiment telling stories, encouraging them to do so. I have a little site here called Environmental Insight, and it's my own home here, and encouraging students to get actively involved in environmental issues around the world, and to take an interest in what's happening to the world, and looking at other alternatives and doing research on it and making presentations. So I'm encouraging students, along with adults, to and actively involved verbally And then later on, you can focus on the rules of grammar, as this gentleman so eloquently had spoken about. It's very important to not discourage, but to encourage students to get out there and to give it a shot at, uh, you know, uh, getting across some of their concerns, especially in the area that I'm in, environmental concerns right now. Uh, I don't know what more I can say. I've been introduced. I've been thinking about this, dream about this virtual reality for the last 40 years, and finally it's arrived. And but hopefully we won't ignore the writing aspect of students being able to write down their thoughts intelligently and coherently, and then later on focusing on the grammar and if that application can be made in virtual reality, if possible. That's it.
Wow, I love
Thank
that.
you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Fred. And I love that you encourage your students to go out and get involved with these with different things that are happening around the world. And I think that's super important too, is the application of the language and that sense of ownership that you want your students to develop. I think that's super important because why are we learning the language? Why are we learning the new language? So that we can interact with the world and engage different parts of it and learn different ways to express ourselves. I think that's very important, and that's why we want to learn these languages to get into different conversations and to be able to write, like you said. I definitely agree with you also that writing is very important and it kind of changes the pace at which you're using the language. So it's another thing, kind of like a mind muscle connection. And one of the things that I'm really excited for with virtual reality is uh, how can I say this? It's like a new way to write and to form that connection because we have this sandbox. So writing is very important, but I feel like with virtual reality, we can find different ways to process the language differently in our minds because we have this boundless digital space and we have all of these creative people always working on different apps and things like that. Um, Go ahead if you're still unmuted. If you want to add some more, Fred, if you had
I'll
something to
toggle
say.
your that's okay. I'll toggle go ahead, try again, Fred.
Yeah. What I used to get my students to do would be to make presentations before provincial and municipal and federal governments on various issues. And I had a student that could not write at all, but verbally he could get up there and really, get across his views, and encouraged him to work on that other area, going into uh, writing up um, documents to be presented to government. But I think that there has to be a connection, not just the classroom has to be connected to the outside world, bringing our students in connection with the outside world, and to also show that they too can be can participate. I mean, we talk about participatory democracy. Well, it's either put up or shut up. We have to be able to show our students that it is possible for them to be involved politically and economically and socially with the outside world, and that the classroom is not the only world. I know it's a society in itself, but they have to be connected to the outside world, and the work that they do in their language, uh, they have to see that it can make a difference. I mean, I had students going up against large companies that were proposing pipelines in our area, getting up. I've had a young lady with cerebral palsy drag herself up to the front there, and had difficulty with the language, but was able to make a wonderful presentation and put the developers to shame. It was but that the students have to see that connection, and not just in the classroom, where you have your little posters inside the classroom and that's it. you shut the door and you go home. They have to be connected to the outside world.
Well, yeah, that's lovely. I completely 100% agree with you there. And how do you think virtual reality can catalyze that? Getting students involved and making them feel like they can use this language, uh, like, or to make them feel like English is power in a sense, or whatever language they're learning gives them the power to do these things and to engage with the world in that way. How do you think virtual reality can be used to catalyze that and then sort of enhance that process? Yeah, Fred?
Hang on, Fred. I'm toggling it again. Kate, try it again.
Okay. Well, I'm experimenting here with my little site called Environmental Insight, and I'm going to be having not only just films on different environmental issues, but I'm going to have people making presentations, and I'm encouraging students from around the world to come and make those presentations. I recently took some students up to a place called Murmansk, Russia, and where it was with caretakers of the environment, and where they came back and made presentations of the 16 nuclear reactors that have been dumped off the coast of the Barents Sea coast by the Northern Fleet. They saw this going, they saw the environment, and they had lots of reflections, and so they made presentations on climate change and also the environment to the federal government. Virtual reality could bring the world together, bring students from all over the world together on all these environmental issues. And it's a tremendous opportunity to bring the world together with respect to problems in their area and that young people see and could present at different venues throughout virtual reality. I see the potential is unlimited.
Definitely, Fred. Well said. It can sort of increase that exposure that students have so that they can express themselves more and witness these issues firsthand and uh, interact with other people that speak different languages, and they can work on efforts like the like you mentioned, the environmental efforts. So thank you so much for that, Fred. I appreciate that. Does anyone else have anything else they want to add or chime in to the discussion on how virtual reality can be implemented?
Captain, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I don't have a lot to add that would be new here. It's more to piggyback on what everyone has said, and I am the product of failed language education. So I'm in Canada, a bilingual country of English and French, and for 13 years, I took French once a day or at least 3 times a week. And after that 13 years, I could not speak our national language, which is a little bit embarrassing. I'm sure as educators here would probably say, well, you should be able to speak it by then. I spent the most of my education conjugating verbs, learning the structure of the French language. And then our homework at the end of the day would be to write it out, just write it out, repetition, repetition, repetition. And I could conjugate verbs and I could assemble the structure of the language, but I couldn't execute it. And just listening to your ideas here, I think if I had been exposed to that, if someone had said, okay, this is how you conjugate a verb, this is how this is how a sentence is built, is structured. And then they'd say, for tonight, your homework is go home, log into, ALTSPACE. There's a room set up, and you're going to engage with people in France or people in our French-speaking provinces. And if you had been able to combine those two and execute it, number one, it would obviously you would know how effective it would be, but also to get students engaged and excited about things, and they'd be learning about other culture, they'd be learning about other places, they'd be learning about social causes and things like that. So if you take language and you make it applicable, and this to me, like I'm just being exposed to this virtual reality. I'm 41 and I'm not that fluent with all of this, but I just look at it and I go, the opportunities are here. And if you said, okay, I'm learning a new language and I want to execute it, I want to be immersed, what better way, what better place is there than this? So from that standpoint, I'm very excited. And I think it goes along with a lot of the things you're saying.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for chiming in with that. And I'm very happy that you found something that helps you get a better grasp of the language. From what everyone's saying or what people have said so far, it's the exposure aspect of VR and the fact that we can get together and meet more people and quickly jump into these lectures and different discussions and different topics and events and content and meet these people at a rapid rate that accelerates our language learning capabilities. So I'm very happy that you found that in here. Does anybody else want to add about that?
Neil, with Captain Neil, I just wanted to say that yes, understanding your own language learning strategies is like a great start. So you can improve greatly with language learning. What else? Okay. About some technical tools. So, what other VR apps have you tried for language learning or teaching? And did you like them or you didn't? Maybe something like Monly. What else? VR chat, Mozilla Hubs, some
Right.
other. Yeah.
What if you've used any VR apps before, like Modly, uh, to train those conversation skills? It's sorry, hold on. What aspects, what things do you think should, or what features should a platform like this have to encourage that exposure and to encourage uh, the benefits of VR? What features do you think some of the future developing apps or uh, AltSpace what features do you think they should they have? I know that there's a captioning feature. I don't know if it's still in beta, but it allows for captions and live translations to occur when you're talking to somebody. And the thing I immediately thought of is it would be cool if there was an option to stress the intonations and the different parts of speech, if you could somehow program that or hardwire that into the live captioning, so you have like a bolded part of the word that you use, uh, specifically for language learning. That's just one of the things that I thought of. But what features do you think should uh, these platforms have to enhance that what everybody is talking about, which is that exposure and that application?
Good
We'll go ahead and
question.
open
Yeah.
the floor.
We have some
Yeah,
people.
Ozzy, go ahead.
Actually, I was a little bit late and I missed the majority of it, but I teach English in Russia, and I think this platform would be great for those people who don't speak English language, because this mainly it is practice. The alt space practice is English language.
No, well, AltSpace holds all sorts of language learning events. So, but anybody can come in and host a reoccurring event either every week. I know that there's several language meetups, and depending on the time zone and when you can catch them, they're quite varied. There's one every Thursday where there's some French, there's some Spanish, there's a lot of Spanish courses with very interactive worlds. There's one where you can kind of get in a car and drive around. And there's different trees and different props that when you press on them, there are vocabulary pop-ups that come up. So there's quite a lot of languages represented here in AltSpace already.
And with the language exchange events, you can come and either be a student or a teacher. So anyone can come up to you and tell you, like, oh, please teach me some Russian. And you can teach them. Or you can go and meet other people to practice your English speaking or something else, or start even a new language to come up to someone else and ask them to teach you their language. So it's really cool.
Right. There was a, I think it's called a Broadsworth German event, like a party the other day. And so there's even social settings and different festivities represented in different languages just through AltSpace alone. And that's to be able to host those events so seamlessly is an important feature that really helps with that exposure, you know. So that's an example of like a feature that I'm talking about that can be implemented to these social apps, you know, being able to pass a cube around, like what Susie mentioned, being able to just develop that and put it into your world and have words on it and be able to pass that around to teach different, you know, phonetics or different vocabulary, how to say different words. That's an important feature that needs to be thought of when creating the apps of tomorrow or the social you know, the different social platforms of tomorrow, so that, you know, language learning is considered and improved upon. So is there any other ideas that come to anyone else's minds on any other features or any other ways to visually represent these concepts through VR or to increase exposure through different features, or anyone's personal experiences uh, using these features and going to these social settings, and how you see that it benefits language education and how we can probably translate that into other apps.
Susie, I'm going to give you the mic. Do you want to say something?
Yes, I'm sorry, I don't want to take too much space, but
Oh,
I
don't
think
worry.
um, when someone was talking about the importance of writing as well for the language, and I think having a chance to write instead of just speak would be amazing. I found that I still find that extremely useful. Again, I'm always going back to Second Life because that's the space where I have more experience. And when I had my classes there, I would speak, and then I knew, because I knew my class, I would always write down the words that I knew were most difficult so that they could also see them instead of just hearing them. And I think having that local chat, if you like, would be very, very useful. And again, I go back, as you were saying yourself beforehand, that it would be great that if teachers could modify the environment a bit more, which I find impossible in 3D. I'm sorry, I'm not good at doing that. I've tried with Mozilla Hubs. It took me hours last summer to try and put something together myself. And in the end, I gave up because that's not my job. I couldn't really customize the language, the language class the way I wanted to, because I had to go um, with objects that had already been designed by somebody else. There's and I tend to do my own thing and I upload my own pictures and, have my recordings and uh, trees and build in Second Life and buildings and do it myself. Whereas in 3D, I need to rely on an engineer.
Of course. Thank you for sharing that, Susie. And how,
Thank you.
if you don't create it and you use, you know, other, you know, you kind of depend on other people to create these worlds and you make the
Yeah.
most out of them, how do you encourage your students, or how do you implement it into your course? Do you do it, would you do it 100% through these platforms? And, you know, how do you encourage your students to make the most out of these tools that
When
you've used and introduced?
I am not teaching Senate Code Life now. When I did, um, the whole class was no, sorry, oh, now I forget. We were meeting once a week over there, and for about an hour and a half. And every single time I had the whole new set organized. So it wasn't in a class, it was in a space which was designed depending on what I wanted to do that time. So it could be a hospital if I wanted them to deal with vocabulary that related to being sick. So I had the chemist and I had the hospital rooms and I had people playing the doctors and all that. Or it could be an apartment, which I have because you can find these things for free, and I raised the apartment, put in some broken things, and then the students had to go around, find things that didn't work, and then complain with the landlord, type of things, like tasks, which I know I wouldn't be able to do in here. So this previous experience is kind of stopping me to do a few things in virtual reality. I need to have a different mindset, and I realize that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your thoughts on that, Susie. It does take a different approach to think about how you're gonna fit that into your traditional English education. So that's something that teachers that we're trying to establish here actually with educators in VR, a way so that English educators or language educators can approach this in the right way, and think about VR in that particular way, and how to maximize all of those all of the different things that we can do with language education in VR.
That's right. Yep.
So go ahead, Donna.
Shabro, did you
Uh,
have a question? Raise your hand if you raise your hand again if you have a question. Okay.
yeah, it looks like we have time for probably one more.
Oh, yeah.
or
Okay. You
if
should be able
someone
to
else.
to unmute yourself now, Shabro.
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Hi. How are you?
Hello. Good, good. How are you?
Do
What,
you
you
have
got
a
a question?
Yeah, I'm new to here.
Okay.
We
And
can.
how are you liking it
I'm
so
good.
far?
I'm
Is it
good. Thank
helping
you.
you with your language?
Yeah. How are you?
I'm good. This is a good example of
The
the
wrong person.
exposure that you can you can have in the different
Meet some.
conversations that you can have with
Yeah.
different
People.
people. Uh,
Seriously.
so, uh, Shabro, did you have a question? Did you have something to say about learning
Yeah.
languages in VR?
About?
Yeah, I think
Learning languages.
he's
Maybe he's just
Not
just
really.
learning the
saying,
platform
Shabro,
himself. Yeah.
Shabro, we can have a
Yes.
conversation
Yes.
after
Correct.
the event,
I'm
and
learning.
don't worry, we can talk after the event, and
Yeah.
or talk to the people around you after the event, and you'll have some great conversations in store. So, did anybody else have anything they wanted to add?
I can just wrap up the main question like, oh, what are the strategies? So you can use virtual reality as a place of practicing. So you present the information, the vocabulary, the grammar before coming here, and then use this environment only for practicing. Or you can use it as a place where you present the information, the vocabulary, like Remy told us, presenting it and at the same time practicing it on the spot. So it's really up to you, up to your imagination. Be flexible, try new stuff, don't be afraid of it. And you'll find something that really fits you and your students.
This is Nagaraj from Vijayawada. Sorry, yeah, India. It is a
Oh,
great
hello.
opportunity. Hi. It is a great opportunity to learn in English language. Thank you very much to all.
Of course, no problem.
Thank
And
you so much for coming.
yes, there's events happening around the clock. Get as engaged as you can, meet as many people as you can. Check out the comedies. Be sure to get a wide range of different applications of English, and that'll definitely help you out.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So does that, there are no more questions. So just to let you know, Pedro.
All right. Yes. Oh, whoa. Sorry, I keep moving around. So that'll conclude our event. Uh, thank you guys so much for all your thoughts and sharing your experiences
For
and
coming, for
bouncing ideas
joining.
off
Yes.
each other. It was very valuable, and I appreciate all of you guys being here.
Join our Discord channel, Educators in VR, and you can see the channel with language learning, Solvay language project. You can join and ask any questions and read all the other information. Yeah, thank you so much.
You guys, let's give a round of applause. This was interesting, so interesting. And thank you to each of you for participating and for sharing your thoughts. And what a valuable discussion. And I think this definitely is going to lead to more discussions like this. So I just want to close by just once more acknowledging our sponsors. Events like this do not happen without the support and contributions by sponsors. So just want to shout out to the UniVirtual collaboration between Educators in VR and Virtual World Society. And want to once again thank HP Virtual Reality and HP Higher Education. They're our Infinity sponsors, and we're so grateful for their support. Our Galaxy sponsors are Engage VR and Aventus, and we're a big shout out to them. I'd like to just mention a couple of others on their stellar level. There's a few companies that that if you haven't checked out yet, I really hope that you do. So the first one is Grove XR. They did a presentation this week, so interesting. So make sure to check out their website at grove.us. Dr. Angelina Dayton, you guys probably know her as the VR lady. She is a wonderful sponsor. She's the founder and director of Students in VR. Frame VR is a web XR browser-based social, creative, and educational VR platform. We're hosting a bunch of events on that platform. If you enjoy Frame, check out those events. If you haven't been to Frame, please find them on the calendar and check them out. It's so interesting visiting other platforms, right? And UniVirtual is happening in a total of 19 different platforms, including ALTSPACE, Engage VR, and Mozilla Hubs. And I just want to, one more that I want to mention is LearnBright. So check out LearnBright at learnbright.com. They're an educational platform and headset that makes learning in VR safe and exciting. So with that, I'm just going to close by saying a huge thank you to Tony Cube Studios for their generosity of spirit and management of the video and live streaming for Educators in VR and Virtual World Society collaboration. The fact that the Tony Keeps Studios and the filmers that are memorializing these events make it possible for you guys to rewatch things, that events that you enjoyed, or check out events that you missed for whatever reason. So thanks again for attending, and I look forward to seeing you at another UniVirtual experience.